समस्त जन कल्याणे निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरम् वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुम्. Okay, so today we begin verse 68. Now the verse that we did before this, 67, has an extremely hard-hitting example. And it says that for the mind which follows in the wake of the wandering senses carries away his discrimination, as the wind carries away a boat on the waters. See, we've all seen boats, sea-tossed boats, and those sea-tossed boats, nobody can help because the sea is, a storm in the sea is much, much too powerful. But a boat which does not have a captain, a captainless boat, that is a calamity because even the captain cannot save it. They cannot, nobody can steer it and all. There are umpteen examples like this, that any car which has a wheel broken or no brakes, where will it go? So all that. So here he says that the senses, when they dwell upon sense objects, then they become like a boat in a stormy sea, and the winds of desires, they snatch away all discrimination from the mind, and they drag the mind, and the mind is helpless and can do nothing. So then here he says tasmat dyasya mahabaho. I did tasmat dyasya mahabaho nigrahitani sarvashah indriyani indriyarthebhyah tasya prajna pratisthita. Tasya prajna pratisthita. Now see, it starts with tasmad. Tasmad, I told you, means therefore. What therefore? Because of the verse above it, that if the sense organs dwell on the sense objects, then the mind is by force pulled away, and you cannot then conquer the mind, control the mind, and it can take you into the gutters of sensuality anyhow, any deep, and therefore he says, and he calls him Mahabaho. Mahabaho means the mighty armed. So this is the compliment to Arjun, that you win over enemies, but you only win over external enemies. You would be a true hero, you would be a true warrior if you can conquer the enemies within. It is the hardest to conquer your own self. You can conquer any amount in the world, but to conquer your own mind, to conquer to be in full control with your own mind, that is a difficult thing. Now I'll read the translation. Therefore, O mighty armed, his knowledge is steady, whose senses are completely restrained from sense objects. Now look, some translators say completely restrained from sense objects, and some translators say the senses should be completely destroyed. Now just think about it, that what does it mean that destroying sense objects does not mean, okay, so then anybody will say, okay, so this is what the Hindu man of wisdom is, that he should blind his eyes, he should deafen his ears, and he should chop off his tongue, and he should also damage his nose, so that none of his senses work in the world and he becomes a wise man. Now, look what he says. He says that these words that they say, look what the words that are used are nigrihitani sarvasha. Mahabaho, nigrihitani sarvasha. Now, nigraha karna means to restrain. It does not mean to destroy. A. Secondly, even nigraha is not used in terms of suppression or oppression, your own oppression on your senses. No, it is used, like you say, I live right on the sea. When you say that, what does it mean? It means your house is on the banks, on the beach, right? Or if you say, I live right on the river, it means your house is on the banks of the river. You say, I travel by air. Okay? When you say I travel by air, it is not that you're flying in the air. You are sitting in a plane. You are not flying. You are sitting in a plane. The plane is flying. But what do you say? I went by air. Or you say, this man has a lot of fire in him. Does it mean the actual fire? No. So this is all these things are actually a way of speaking. They are they are parlance. So when you speak like that, it only means I live by the sea, I live by the river, I traveled in an airplane in the air, like that. So here, don't take it literally, the meaning. Also, it means prevention. Like when you enter the sea for a bath, the salt water can damage your skin if you're for too long in the sea, right? In fact, it can even tear up your skin and muscles, start tearing up your muscles. So you have to be very careful. So sea bathers generally rub oil, especially in South India, where they're surrounded by sea. They rub oil on their body before they enter the sea. So when they rub oil in the body, they are in the sea, but the sea water cannot affect their skin. And this is exactly what controlling the mind means. Controlling the mind means that you are in charge of your mind. So you are in the world, you are living among sense objects, but the sense objects are not able to affect you. So you have put like a mosquito repellent you put on your body. So mosquitoes cannot bite you. You're sitting in the lawn and there are mosquitoes flying all over, but they can't bite you. So like that. So this is what exactly this stanza really means. And he says, he says that life in self-control alone is worth living, according to this stanza. Because if you do not control your senses, as I've told you, they can make your lifeboat collapse in the sea of life, just like the stanza above it said. And this is a repetition of the stanza 61 of the same chapter. It says, Vashe yasya indriyani tasya prajna pratishtita. A man who can control his indriyas is the only man who is a wise man. And as once before I told you, that intellect and the correct use, reasoning power, logic of the intellect is the only difference between an animal and a human being. So if you want not to control the mind and you just do instinctually whatever you feel like doing, then you are an animal. You are no longer a man. So the dignity of the man, the dignity of the civilized man is in keeping his senses under his control. That man is civilized. Or that man is the one who can perfect himself, perfect his behavior, and not be affected by things around him. So that is the true Mahabaho. There is this historical fact of Balban. He was a ruler in medieval India, and a very, very strict ruler. They say that he never used to laugh in court, he never joked in court, he was always very serious. Even his personal servants had never seen him in informal attire and all that, you know. Now, such a severe man who even punished his sons very severely, he got the news of his eldest son's death on the northwest frontier. When he received that, how he was such a controlled man that there was no reaction on him. He received the news in a full court. There was no reaction. He conducted the court till the evening. The next day also he conducted court. Third day also he conducted court. But his personal servants say that we could hear him the whole night. He used to cry and bang his head on the walls because he was so sorry and so disturbed by that news. But in the daytime, he was perfectly controlled and perfectly behaved like a king should behave in a court, not like a miserable man. Now, that kind of control a man must have on his senses, especially somebody who is in a seat of power. In fact, people who are in seat of power are taught not to be moved by somebody who's crying or somebody who's, shouting or hysterical or something. They're supposed to keep their mind in place and then judge whatever it is. And they're not also allowed to show their reactions. They're not supposed to show their reactions to people. So that is part of management. Now, again here, see, he does not he does not destroy his capacities of perception. He only controls them, or rather I will say he is in control of them. And that is the true valor, that is the true heroism. That is what the Krishna is saying. Come to the next one. Ya nisha sarvabhutanam tasyam jagrati sanyami yasyam jagrati bhutani sa nisha pashyato mune. He says, that which is night to all beings, in that the self-controlled man wakes, and where all beings are awake, that is the night for the sage Muni who sees. Now, this kind of a statement seems to be very ridiculous. This is a description of the man of perfection. So then the Westerner generally says, even Indians say, okay, so the Hindu man of wisdom is like a bat or is like an owl, that he is awake at night and he sleeps during the day. Is it? Now, that is not what he is trying to say. This, I said that on the surface, this statement looks like a ridiculous statement. And the Westerner says that, okay, the man of perfection that the Gita describes is like a bat or like an owl or some creature that is awake the whole night, and normally it is birds and animals of prey who are awake at night and they sleep during the day. No, it is absolutely not that. This again is a metaphorical statement which needs to be interpreted differently. So whenever in the scriptures you see something like this, understand that the real meaning is something other than this meaning. It is not that they are awake at night and sleep during the day. That's not at all. It cannot be. So it is only talking of two different levels of perception. A sensuous man's perception is different from the man of wisdom. Just like, again, I'll give an example, that the world of an engineer is different from the world of a doctor. The doctor will see something differently, the painter will see the same object differently, and the engineer will see the same object differently. The object is the same, but they all look at it and interpret it differently, and different kinds of thoughts come into their mind. Similarly, a sensuous man, his mind always goes to sensuality, and he can never understand what is the joy of the man of wisdom, or man of wisdom we are talking about over here, but even a person who is spiritually inclined. What is the joy in his mind? Why does he go towards spirituality? Is not understood by a man who indulges in sensuous pleasures. He would love to drink, he would love to smoke, he would love to indulge in all kind of sensuous activities, because that gives him even temporary pleasure, but he calls it pleasure, even if it is temporary, but he goes in for that because he knows no other. Understand this. The man of spirituality, a spiritual person, has already found a finer pleasure, a rarer happiness than what the sense objects can grant. Therefore, he does not want lesser toys anymore. He wants more sophisticated toys, which will appeal to his wisdom. He does not want temporary toys that will break after some time. And the same toy that was giving him pleasure starts giving him pain. He has understood it. So he does not. And that is why these two levels are there. He is only saying that a tamasic, sensuous fool's pleasures are not at all appreciated by the man of wisdom, because he has evolved into higher joys of living. The same joys that he was once fond of do not give him pleasure anymore. So he has risen above. And that is all that the meaning over here is. I told you that it is a metaphorical language used by the poet over here. Gita is one, Gita also, Bhagavatam also, they are one that combine poetry with science. They combine poetry with psychology. They combine poetry with hard truths of mental behavior. And this is a very rare combination, because nowhere else does this happen. Now, see, the two different points of view. Now, moral living, they say, okay, but then wise man, why should we live a moral life? A lot of people ask that. Why should we live a moral life? Why should we beleaguer ourselves into all kind of mental discipline, physical discipline, sense control, this, that? What for? Because he says that this living has got a reward. And that reward you can never aspire for by lower ways of living your life. You have to, anything big that you want to achieve, you have to discipline yourself. You have to go through training, physical and mental. Only then can you gain. Even if you want to get good marks in an examination, how much of control you have to do on your body, don't you? On your body, on your mind. I remember when I was at the university, students used to stop shaving. My class fellows used to stop shaving. They used to stop going for movies. They used to stop running after all kind of things that they otherwise used to. No wasting of time. So wasn't that a discipline? Because they wanted to achieve higher grades in their examination whenever they appeared. Similarly, spirituality is not for free. It is a very high discipline. And for that discipline, you have got to work up. And when you work up, it is the midnight oil that you have to burn, as they say. So it is hard discipline. You've got to. So this is just two levels of perception that we are talking about. And see, Gurudev gives this interesting example of a villager coming to a town, and he sees these electric lights burning, whereas there's no electricity in his village. There he burns oil wicks, right, or candles. So he looks at it as a wonder. Whereas the man in the town, it is no wonder for him at all. So there, these two different perceptions, you say. So it is like this. And all literature written in contemplative literature is always written in mystical style. And you have to try and figure out the meaning. You have to read between the lines to confirm and understand the true meaning of the stanza. So here it is that now the ugliness and the beauty of the world is understood differently by different people. The conditioning of your mind will make you see a beauty which a person whose mind is conditioned to ugliness, he will only see the ugly part. He will never be able to see the beauty of the world. That is the difference between a negative mind and a positive mind. Any happening that happens, there are always a flip side to it. There is always a flip side. So you can see the bad part of it and you can also see the good part of it. Similarly, you can either say the glass is half empty or you can say the glass is half full. There was this this experiment done by some American teacher of psychology in a university, where he gave people a piece of paper. And that paper had one black dot in the center. And he said, look at this paper and please write about it. So the students kept looking at it for some time and then they all wrote. So they all wrote about that black dot, how big it was, how dark it was in the center, on the side, it was off center, it was whatever anybody imagined it to be. Now see, the teacher said that you people have only concentrated on the black dot. No one has written about the white paper. The white paper is huge, but nobody saw that white paper. Everybody saw only the black dot. So you see what your mind is focused on. Please understand that. You only see what your mind is focused on. And that is what he's saying, that the wise man, his perception of the world is different from the man who is a sensuous man. And so you feel joy or sorrow accordingly. Okay, now the next verse I take. Apuryamanam achala pratishtham samudramap pravishanti yadvat tadvat kamayam pravishanti sarve sashanti mapnoti na kamakami. A lot of emphasis on shanti. Shanti is peace. Okay. Now, peace is what? He says that who gains peace? Look at the example he gives. The translation I'm reading. He attains peace into whom all desires enter, as waters enter the ocean, which filled from all sides remains unmoved, but not the desirer of desires. It says that no matter how many desires pour into the man of wisdom, he does not feel the lack of anything. He always feels complete. He is never upset because his vision is not on what he lacks, his vision is on what he has. And the example given is Apuryam Achalam Pratishtham. That is, the ocean remains within its own bounds, no matter how many trillions and trillions of gallons of water are continuously pouring into the ocean by the second, but it never breaks its bounds. The ocean remains where it is. That is what he's saying. He's saying the ocean remains that much only. It doesn't break its bounds. Where is the river? Any one dam broken, there is a flood in the river, right? But that does not happen with the ocean. So many gallons and gallons of water of not one river, so many rivers and streams are pouring by the second into the ocean. The ocean does not break its bounds. So this is an example given of the oceans, that it remains brimful, but it doesn't spill over. It never breaks its boundary. So the a man of perfection, he says that he is totally fulfilled. He never feels the lack of anything. So there is never a minus one in his life. And he feels that I am full, that I don't need anything. We always want to plus one, plus one, plus one. And when we keep getting that plus one, we want more and more and more. The ocean neither desires more water, nor does it give off more water. It just remains peaceful, placid where it is. There is no change in the water level whatsoever. So also, because the man of wisdom has joined a macrocosmic mind, and he is not an individualized, narrow, small, petty person. No longer is he that, because that man always looks at the totality and wants more and more and more. Now, see, there is this great story where a woman was walking on the street and a beggar came to her asking for something. Now, she opened her purse and gave him some money. He took the money and went away. But the next day, he came back to the same woman, because he used to meet her in front of a temple where the place was determined, and he knew she will come there every day at the same time. So this man comes again and he returns the money to her and he says, I don't want your money. So she says, what do you want? So he said that when you opened your bag, I saw a glittering diamond studded in a gold ring in your bag. So I want that. Can you give that to me? So she very easily opened her purse and gave him that. The man went away. Next day he again came back and he returned the diamond ring to her and said, I don't want this. So she said, now what do you want? So he said, I only want that capacity to give so easily, which you have, which people do not have. You so easily gave away that thing to me. And I want to develop that, because that speaks of a great fulfillment in your life where you can part with just anything at all without even a little bit of trace of sorrow in your mind. How peaceful your mind must be. How happy your mind must be that it knows no want. All these conquerors, all these conquerors who go conquering lands of other people and want to expand their kingdom, all the kings who wanted to expand their kingdoms by snatching other people's kingdoms and lands, are beggars. Think about it, that they are beggars who want more and more and more. Whereas a man sitting in tattered clothes under a tree, a Mahatma, great Mahatma, you ask him what does he want and he says, I want nothing. That is what happened to Alexander, that great conqueror. He came conquering land after land, right till India. So what a great beggar he must be, that he still was not feeling fulfilled. And on his way back, he died. So what did he get? How much did he get? He got nothing, really. So this is the story. So even if you are a multimillionaire, you are a beggar if the only thing you know is want. And most of people like you and me are always after, I want this and I want that and I want that. Otherwise, my life is not fulfilled. The neighbor bought a beautiful, swanky new car, and your sleep is gone because you want either that or a better one than that, isn't it? So, this is the whole game one goes on playing through life. So you have left your childhood toys, but you have other toys. Those toys are also finite, and those toys will also break, and those toys will you will also outgrow. So, what is the hunt, the life through? What are you searching all your life? Have you searched for any kind of permanent joy? Any kind of joy that will can totally give you peace, and you will never yearn for anything more. The ocean never yearns for anything more. See, he says that this kind of a man, he gets shanti. Look what he says. He gets remains unmoved, and not the desirer of desires. He says that means kamakami. Kamakami means one who goes on desiring. He can never attain peace. Peace is not possible for a man who is a desirer of desires. So the more you desire, the more you will be whipped into activity. The more you will be totally whipped into activity if you desire, because the mind will not let you rest. The mind will never let you rest. A civilized man is a happy man, and a civilized man is a contented man. A civilized man is a wise man. That is what it is saying. And he is achala and pratishtha. Achala means unmoving, not moved by any sorrow, not moved by any desire. There are no storms in his mind that arise. And he is pratisthit. Pratisthit means a kind of a stillness, a kind of a unmoving, absolute, placid, calm, peaceful person. And therefore, he says that the example is extremely good. You must all go for this example. So the master's mind is so vast that it never is excited into any kind of useless activity to fulfill himself. Now, the joy is so complete in his mind. The joy is total in his mind. And also, see, most of the desirer of desires are ones who have not identified with the total mind, identified with the reality of the world, identified with the ultimate truth. They are always less. Here is a talk about a cup that is brimful. Any cup that is brimful, can you pour anything more into it? There is no capacity. So only that person wants more who feels half, who feels that he is not. And that is why, the first line of this section, this whole section of 18 verses of the chapter 2, last 18 verses of the chapter 2, you remember, go back to the first verse, which goes, Prajahati yada kaman sarvan parthamanogatan atmanyev atmanah tushta sthita pragnastad uchyate. That means that man is called sthita pragna. A man, sthita pragna, just say a man of wisdom, who is established in the higher truth. Sthit means established in, and pragna, the higher wisdom. So, a man who is established in the higher wisdom, he does not want anything. He has given away all desires. See, prajahati, yada kaman sarvan parth manogatan. That means, hey Partha, He is talking to Arjun, who's Partha. He says, when a man has given up all desires and he is satisfied in the Atma, by the Atma alone, such a person is not wounded or crushed by desires. He is totally above the desire for any sense object. They do not affect him anymore. Just like the man who puts oil on his body and goes into the water, water cannot touch his body. Same way, this man only. And he is the only one who comes to perfect peace. See, he says, Sa Shanti Mapnoti. He is the man who gets total peace. And total peace in our scriptures is equal to total happiness. Prasad. Prasad means prasannata. Prasadam means prasannata. So prasannata only he can get. And complete prasannata, total prasannata, prasannata all the time. And that is what this man of the wise man gets. It is his quotient of happiness is total. It is not less even an iota, ever. Now, you know this verse. We have done this Prajahati Yada Kaman, but he says, Atmanyeva Atmana Tushta. Atmanyeva Atmana Tushta means who is completely Tushta. Tushta is a short form of Santushta. You know Santushta? Contented. A contented man has got no capacity for any desire. See, there is a difference. A totally content man will not desire. You may have seen, even when the children are very little, there is a difference in the temperament of the children. One child will snatch a toy from another. And another child, if his brother or sister is crying, will give him the toy that, okay, you take it. And he gives it to him very, very easily. Right? So this is a spiritually advanced child. The other child who is snatching and is always discontent, always complaining. You will notice this amongst even your own children, you will see the difference. So this is the difference between the wise man who is a sthita prajna and a man who is going into spirituality. Also, please understand that here we are talking, all these verses are about a sthita prajna. Sthita prajna means a man of realization, a man of wisdom. So never make the mistake of comparing yourself to this. A lot of seekers do this. They say, oh, this is never possible. Oh, we can never do this. So let's drop it. This is one response. The other response is that of dejection and frustration. They say, oh, we can never do this, so why do it, and I fail miserably every time I try, I fail. You will fail. Because please understand that the level of a class 2 child and the level of the one who is sitting in MSc is different. Here you are talking of somebody who is sitting in an MSc class. We are not in that class. So we are men of the world. We are the desirer of desires and we do not have peace. But that also does not make us feel disappointed because we are trying. At least we are trying. At least we are aware. That is half the battle. Swami Tejamanand says that anybody who even asks a question about spirituality, who even wants to know something about spirituality, already has a certain level of purity in his mind, already has a certain level of disappointment with the world of sense objects, and he wants to find out, where is my peace? Where can I find my happiness? Where can I find total and complete and everlasting happiness? So, see, his antakaran shuddhi has already started. The purity in his mind has already begun. Otherwise, he does not even look towards this. Ramcharitmanas also in Uttarakhand gives an example of a huge lake. you know. And he says that a spiritual person is the only one who wants spirituality and who has this dissatisfaction from the world of desires and sense object. He is the only one who even comes towards this lake. Otherwise, man will remain thirsty. He will go on looking for lakes and he will go on looking for water, but he will not near this lake of spiritual advancement. So he is talking here of the same thing. So we need not be disappointed by these descriptions of the man of wisdom. We must always keep it in mind that this is the goal. And we are all striving towards this goal. So we may be on step number 1, we may be on step number 4, we may be on step number 9, but we are all climbing towards it. And the higher you climb, the rarer the atmosphere, the more peaceful your mind. The oxygen that you breathe is a rare oxygen when you are climbing the ladder of spirituality. The lower you are, the harder is life for you and the more sorrows in your life. And so he says over here, Shanti Mapnoti, such a man gets the Shanti, not the person who is continuously desiring more and more and more. He is a total miserable person and will always remain miserable. So much for today. And we go to the next verse next time. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.